Welcome back. The battle over Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, is catching the attention of two of the world's largest banks, that's for sure. Can it break into the mainstream business world, though? J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has promised to fire any employee who trades in Bitcoin just over stupidity, he said. Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein, meanwhile, says he's keeping an open mind. Blankfein tweeted this: still thinking about Bitcoin, no conclusion, not endorsing or rejecting. Know that folks also were skeptical when paper money displaced gold. This coming after the Wall Street Journal reported that Goldman is considering a new trading operation devoted to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Joining us right now to talk more about it is the CEO and managing partner at BlockTower Capital, Matthew Goetz. Matthew, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So what do you think of Bitcoin?
We think it's really interesting. It represents both a technological leap forward and a new opportunity for people globally to store their wealth.
And there's a lot of anonymity in it, so that's one thing that helps, right? If you use Bitcoin, people don't necessarily know what you're doing. It's anonymous.
That's true, although there are a number of different cryptocurrencies, and I think the assumption that something is totally anonymous is something that people have been somewhat off base on. But there are others that take that much more seriously and, for example, really optimize for total privacy.
So I have a very basic question for you. What backs Bitcoin? Like, the U.S. dollar is backed by the full faith of the country and the economy here. What backs Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin,
what creates its value?
Yeah, it's the first truly scarce digital asset in human history. So when you have something that's scarce and that has fundamental demand behind it, which we can talk about why that is and what people sort of view it as, it creates tremendous value. It's sort of like all forms of money, even something like gold. Nothing fundamentally backs money or gold, but the belief that it has value and its use case as something that allows people to fundamentally store their wealth and preserve wealth.
Well, no. I mean, the dollar is backed by the faith of the U.S. government and the Treasury. It is backed. Money is backed in the U.S.
And gold has intrinsic value because it can be used to make jewelry and other things, and it has a
and it can be converted into dollars, which is backed by the U.S. Treasury.
But gold and currency are traded, and that, I think, gives it a big part of its market. What makes Bitcoin scarce?
So it is programmed scarce. So Bitcoin is code. It's computer software. And that software was created with a predetermined number of Bitcoins that will ever exist. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in the world.
So there's a limit.
There's a limit. And so what happens when 21 million people want to own one Bitcoin?
Can that be overridden? The program, can it be overwritten to create more?
It's a good question. So not within Bitcoin itself, but again, this is computer software. So you can literally make a copy of it, just like I can copy a JPEG photo or an MP3 file. You can make a copy of the Bitcoin network, but that doesn't mean it'll be valuable. If I make Matthew coin or you make Maria coin, I can copy the Bitcoin network. That will exist. But if I'm the only one using it, that's not going to have any value. So things like network effects are really important.
Yeah, I was going to say the real trick here is network effects, because you've got, I think, 5 or 6 bigger cryptocurrencies, and you've got hundreds of would-be cryptocurrencies. And the question is, who can get there the first with the most? And then the question for all the rest of us is this like tulip bulbs being traded as a currency when they became a hot and scarce commodity and being used for exchange? Or is this something where the collective faith is going to evaporate and then suddenly there's nothing backing it up, and all that wealth just evaporates?
It's a great point. And certainly if you look at the space at large, you have hundreds, you actually have thousands of cryptocurrencies that exist. They're very easy to create, and you have people trying to do different things and take advantage of different angles around this. Most of them are not going to be worth anything. They're either not legitimate by design or accidentally will become not legitimate.
There's only a limited market for Bitcoins or any other a similar currency, and doesn't the value of the currency determine completely based upon its wide acceptance?
So we see huge fundamental demand for something like Bitcoin. So let's talk about use cases for a second. The use case for something like Bitcoin is a digital store of value, a way for people to store their wealth. And the fundamental demand for something like that is very clearly in the double-digit trillions of dollars that we can see today. If you look at how much wealth is stored by people in offshore Cayman and Swiss bank accounts, or complex trust structures, or even by companies who don't want the EU, for example, to be able to seize part of their assets, they use complex legal structures to preserve that wealth in a judgment-resistant way. Bitcoin does that an order of magnitude better and cheaper. And so the fundamental demand for that specific use case of store of value is in the trillions of dollars.
But the redemption would come from an end buyer, right? There's got to be a constant trade for it to have a redemption. So if I gave $100 million of my money and put it into Bitcoin to redeem it at safer times, I would have to find someone willing to buy those coins from.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So these do trade on an exchange where you can exchange in and out of other currencies, other cryptocurrencies.
Based on demand.
And fiat currencies. Yeah.
Real quick, Matthew, if your board said to you, look, Matt, I want to pay you in Bitcoins, would you take it?
Yes.
You would. Okay, good. Matthew Goetz, good to see you.
Only as long as he could trade it away the next day.
That's true. Matthew Goetz, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Likewise.
Great education there.